Welcome to Bright Hope Creations. I'm Kara, and today our Cheery Deer is playing in the snow using stitched snowflake frames and outside-in stitched snowflakes, outside-in stitched rectangles, Cheery Deer, and here's all his little parts. Holly from a Shadow Box Card Fireplace add-on, a sentiment from Joy to All, and the Snowflake Background Stencils. So I'm starting by cutting this 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch piece of paper with my outside-in stitched snowflake and rectangle. And this is Ballet Slippers cardstock, and I think that's beautiful just like that. But we're going to transform this background quite a bit, starting with heat embossing a sentiment. I'm adjusting where I want it, and then closing that misty door. I'll add some clear ink. Oh, and that was the anti-static pad so that no embossing powder sticks where it shouldn't. Inked that up and stamped it down, and now I can add that embossing powder, and off camera I'm going to melt that, and here it is. And I realized I think it's a little bit too far to the left. Always an easy fix. Find an exclamation point, and there are a lot of them in the Lawn Fawn stamps of all different sizes, so I found one that matched the size, and I just added an exclamation point to the end, and problem resolved. If it was on the other side, I think I would have found a little heart or something to start my sentiment. Covering that sentiment with washi tape to protect it from the stencil paste, I'm using the Snowflake Background Stencils and some fairy dust stencil paste. I'm looking at where I want that stencil, and I want to make sure that I have snowflakes kind of around the edges since I have that large snowflake opening in the center. And I'm just setting this down. I didn't tape anything down. I'm just using my hand to keep it in place, and then moving around to add that paste with the other hand. Now I could have kept the washi tape off of the sentiment. I could have just gone over it with the paste. I wasn't sure. I decided to keep it covered. I think if I was to do it again, I probably wouldn't worry about that. They're both going to be a resist. So when I add ink, you'll see the clear but sparkly ballet slipper paper underneath the snowflake areas, and the white embossing will stay as well. Now while that's drying, I am going to add some paste to just a piece of ballet slippers cardstock, and it's like I'm buttering toast, I guess. So just a very light coat, and it will warp a little bit because it's a large area, but it's going to go behind the snowflake opening. Make sure it's got enough coverage there. And then I'm going to add paste to the stitched snowflake frame. I suppose I could have cut this out of pixie dust glitter paper, but this is really a nice thing to have this paste so that anything could have fairy dust on it, so any color you choose. This will curl a little bit while it dries, but I will glue it down with my Lawn Fawn glue tube, and it won't have a problem. It will lay flat. All right, just clean up my messy area here. And while all of that is drying, I'm going to shade and put together my Cheery Deer. I used craft cardstock as the outside edges, and then I have paper bag and vanilla malt for my deer. I'm using E40s on the vanilla malt, and that E40 is really nice to blend it right into that vanilla malt color. But E43 is as dark as I go, and then blend that down with the E41 and then smooth that into the vanilla malt color with the E40. Now it's certainly not necessary to color the deer to shade it in, but it does add a lot of dimension. Here is the R81 I'm using for the cheeks and inside his little ears. So our deer looks like it's a 6-point buck, huh? I think my dad would probably, he would pass this guy up. He would pass him up. He's too cute. Oh, that's not why he would pass him up. I think he'd be waiting for someone a little bigger to come along. All right, yeah. I come from a deer hunting family. That's kind of a culture here where I live, and kids would even have deer season off of school. And it's kind of like the unwritten week off for a lot of deer hunters. But anyway, back to our little Cheery Deer. He's so sweet. I wouldn't want to think about him any other way. I'm shading the paper bag cardstock with E30s. And I think E33 is as dark as I go on here. I'm not really shading too dark. I'm blending that in with the E31 and down to the E30 to really blend it into the color of the cardstock. I'm shading his hooves with C4 and C6. I put him back in that paper bag outline, thinking that maybe this would be easier to get to those little pieces for shading, and it was good. I think another thing I could have done was what I saw Kelly do in one of the intro videos, and she used a full sticky back Post-it note, and those pieces really stayed put. All right, well, now I'm creating a sticker with the solid deer piece, and I'm using Lawn Fawn's double-sided adhesive sheets for this. And I'm adding my white cardstock to the adhesive, and then I'm going to go die cut this out, and did it wrong. Why? I don't know. So I had to do it again. So again, I'm getting my adhesive and putting it on my cardstock, and then I will die cut this out with the adhesive on the top this time so that all my little pieces will stick to that solid base. I added it back into that piece of paper that it was cut out of, just so that I could get that outline straight on my base. And then I didn't need it after that to add all the little cute puzzle pieces into it. I'm speeding it up so that you can watch all the action of putting together the deer. When my kids were little, my oldest daughter went through a phase of watching Bambi over and over, and so, of course, the concern about Bambi's mother would come up, and I would just say, yes, she had to go away, but look, she comes back every time the movie starts. Now, with Nemo's mother, I never even showed my kids the first scene of that show. I wonder if they've seen that yet. Well, back to our deer. Now, this is one of Lawn Fawn's paper piecing dies, which obviously is so fun just to put these little pieces in like a puzzle. But also, I love the size of them because they make a great focal point for a card. Here I am putting in his little eyes, and he is all set, all ready to go. I want to color a little bit more, giving him some more shading, so a little R81 on his tummy and blending that back in. And then I'll use a little C4, give him some eyeliner, and I want to color his little mouth as well. And I get nervous about coloring that nose, so I decided I'd color it in a lighter color first, and then I come back later. So here I'm putting some white dots on his head and on his arms. Now, if he was really a buck, he probably wouldn't have these white speckles, but they're just too cute not to put on there. Put a little highlight on his antlers and a couple more dots on his head, and then now I can come back to the nose because I don't know, did I need to gain confidence? I'm not sure. But anyway, that's a C4 nose and blended in a little bit with a C1. I cut holly and berries out of white cardstock, and I colored those in G20s and in R80s. And then I decided I wanted to get those berries a little bit darker in the shadows, so I'm using an R37, kind of give them some more depth. And now that my background is dry, I can come back with the second stencil, and I'm going over just areas that would be not in that main snowflake. So I just wanted to add to the gaps, I guess. So I had the one at the top and then just a little bit at the bottom. I've just found some small snowflakes And I'll spread my stencil paste in there and let that dry. I'm pulling off the washi tape that I put on the sentiment so that it wouldn't get the paste on it. And I wish I had pulled that off while the paste was still wet. But anyway, now I'm just cleaning up my workspace because I'm going to ink blend on here. But first I want to add some sparkle to the holly and berries with some more fairy dust stencil paste, and I'll let that dry, and we're all set to start the ink blending part. So this is going to be an emboss resist, and I'm using distress ink in Kitsch Flamingo. I'm going to increase the speed here, give us some speed blending. And you can see that underneath those snowflakes, you can still see that light pink. And we've got this darker bright pink on top. I really like this Kitsch Flamingo color with the ballet slippers. I think it works well with it. And once I've got that around everywhere, I'm kind of keeping it lighter nearest the snowflake, I can put on a little bit of Victorian velvet, and that just kind of darkens up, maybe even warms up that Kitsch Flamingo a little bit. So it'll go nicely with our brown deer. Everything is dry and ink blended, and our deer is assembled, so now it's time to put this card together. I'm adding some adhesive with a tape runner for my pink sparkly background, and I want to just make sure that it's in the right place, and it is. And then I'll put some adhesive on my main panel here and on the snowflake as well. I'm going to come back later though and add glue around the little pieces that will stick out on that pink part for the background, but really want to figure out where it's going to sit first, because I'm putting the white snowflake under the panel because I have a little bit of stencil paste that's sticking up. All right, here's that glue now to get all the little pieces to sit down around the snowflake. I don't want them popping up at all. It wouldn't be a big deal to put that white snowflake on afterwards, but this way I knew it would lie flat. I'll add glue all around that stitched snowflake frame, making sure I've got every little bit covered, and this will not pop up now. It's going to lay flat as well once I get it right in position and press it all down. I'll put a little adhesive on the back of the deer and center him up, and then decide where to put those little the holly and berries. I thought I wanted it down by the neck, and then I thought, well, it would be cute up at the antlers too, but in the end, it went back to the neck. He is all dressed up to wish somebody a Merry Christmas with peace, joy, and all things merry. I hope you enjoyed the card today and it inspired you to maybe ink blend a stencil paste background or piece together a cheery deer. Thanks for watching and have a great day. Bye!